I actually just found, thanks to John, yeah, I know. Thanks to John just barely liking it, I forgot about this. There was a new Gallup poll that was done.
Okay.
Gallup is you know what Gallup is, right? It's just an organization. It's a polling firm.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so Gallup poll found Americans would rather live next to a nuclear power plant than an AI data center.
Yeah, but you're saying Gallup poll? It
Yeah.
sounds really similar to Gallup poll. So I'm thinking of the Gatling gun. I'm like,
Huh?
they made one that shoots like spears or something?
Sorry. No, I just think you're just crazy. All right.
Come on, give me a break here.
No, yeah, so it's hilarious because freaking nuclear power plants have had decades of freaking propaganda, anti-nuclear power propaganda against them. And AI data centers are a new thing, and people would rather take the nuclear power plant. It's like, I'd rather have 3 arms and 4 eyes than freaking live next to a data plant that will probably disturb my sleep and poison my water.
Yeah, but also nuclear power plant will actually give them some kind of resource. It gives them electricity. It gives them jobs, where data center, you're lucky if you have a dozen jobs.
I guess to be fair to data centers, they are necessary for the function of AI, of the AI tools that we have. And so it's like, you don't see, like, when you go in your house, you go and you turn on your lights, you recognize that you're getting power from somewhere. And people connect that to power plants. With the AI data center, though, it's like, the way technology has been advancing so fast, you don't really connect that to, data center is responsible for me being able to do this.
Yeah, but we're also seeing they're extremely disruptive. Power plants, they build them farther out, and
yeah,
they don't create a bunch of noise.
Power plants are typically further away, and they use transmission lines to be able to get them to where they need them. Oh, you know what? That's funny. I accidentally forgot to change on the information for the show. You could probably scroll down and change it now or something maybe, but it shows it's episode 32 when it's actually 33. That's funny. Oh well.
Alright, put it in, but I don't know if it's going to do any good.
It may fix it, it may not. It's hard to say. But, oh well. So, let's get into it. We've got a bunch of news.
Last week, apologies.
Yeah, I know. Last week we had the guys' night. There weren't too many guys over here, and, well, it's just I was enjoying talking to them, so I kind of just got distracted and just hung out with them for the most part.
You wouldn't stop talking. I reminded you twice.
I know, and I looked over at the clock several times, and I just kind of let it slip past. I'm like, oh, whatever. I was enjoying the night, chatting with the guys. Missed a bunch of them. There was a whole bunch who didn't show up.
Yeah, anything you learned from this last guys' night that's of importance?
I don't remember, but apparently you remember something.
No, just seeing if you learned anything new about technology.
No, not really. Not really. We were just chatting.
Yeah, chatting about life, family.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Utah on fire.
For those of you who are part of Guys Night, remember upcoming, I think it's the 20th, is another Guys Night, and it's going to be America's birthday party. We're inviting all the families. So it won't just be us guys. All of our families can come. We'll do hot dogs and burgers and, I don't know, scream until the sun comes back up. America, America, America.
No, we
all
don't want to
night
drive
long.
our neighbors crazy.
Oh, please. Some of our neighbors will probably join us.
Maybe if you had your barbecue, they might.
Maybe. I can probably pull out my smoker, get some pulled pork going, and maybe some ribs too. Alright, so, as I said a little bit ago, let's get into it. I then didn't get into it. So let's get into it now. We got the U.S. Supreme Court has released five or so rulings lately. And all of them actually pretty impactful. Quite impactful on how they're going to relate to our daily lives. For us here in Utah, a good chunk of this won't mean anything. But across the U.S., it affects different parts of the U.S. to a different degree. Scroll back up. We just got those 5 right there. So the Supreme Court lets the Trump administration end legal protections for Haitians and Syrians. This was a lawsuit over the temporary protected status, the TPS, that these groups had received to be able to come into the U.S. based off of whatever hardships were going on in their nation. Haitians were able to come into the U.S. under the TPS orders because of the earthquakes that had happened in Haiti, you know, the ones that the Clintons scammed them out of a shit ton of money for and didn't deliver on a hospital. And then the Syrians over the Civil War. They had all received temporary protected status. The Haitians, well, the earthquakes, like, what, over a decade now?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. Back when the Clintons were still relevant to a degree, so that should tell you something. But then the Syrians was the Civil War, but now the leader is kicked out of the country, he's exiled, and they're not in Civil War anymore. The whole point of TPS was like, oh, let's grant these people temporary status, allowing them to be in the U.S. until things settle down in their country. Basically asylums. That's what we already have, the asylum process. We created this as a way, I don't know, to help larger groups of people that weren't necessarily being directly persecuted, but were just facing undue hardship. And of course, it got heavily abused. There would be people who come from far and wide and just throw away their papers at the border and say they came from Haiti, which wasn't true. And so they were able to get in under these temporary protected statuses when they shouldn't have been. And it's not like majority of them were like that, but that still happened though. Now, scroll up a little bit so we can see the images on the right. So we got the Supreme Court clears way for Trump administration to revive restrictive policy for asylum seekers. Basically what this is the stay in Mexico program is okay. That's pretty much what it comes down to. It's if these people haven't come into the U.S. and they haven't arrived in the U.S. And so we don't have to give them the due process procedures for those who actually get inside the U.S. And those are the due process procedures for the frickin' asylum seeking. They were wanting the people who the people who were suing were saying, well, we've arrived to the U.S., but they're not in the U.S. They're in Mexico, and like we want these statuses, we want these protections, but it's like, no, you're not a U.S. citizen, so one, you don't get a bunch of these protections, and two, you're not even inside the U.S. at this point. You're just waiting outside the U.S. for permission to come in. So, pretty big ruling on that. So Trump had 2 major victories on immigration control. So those are going to be very helpful for him to restrict access into the U.S., stop bringing in all these people. And the problem isn't even that he's bringing in poor people. That's not the issue. The problem is so many of them do not care for our way of life. I mean, look at Dearborn, Michigan. All these Somalians, they don't care for our way of life. And they're coming in here. And now it was legal now for a long time for churches to ring their bells on Sunday, and then the mosques were able to then get to do their freaking call to prayer, and now all of a sudden they're trying to ban the churches from ringing their bells on Sunday because it's interrupting the call to prayer. And it's just like, we tried to be hospitable to them, and well, here's the problem. They're not showing that in return. They don't care for our rights. That which is ironic because it's like the left, they hate the left, but they use the left to bring down the U.S. But then they have certain things in common with the left where it's just like it's rights for them but not for everyone else.
But at the exact same time, they don't contribute to society. That is one huge discussion people
It's like
have had.
somewhere between 80 and 90% of a lot of these people coming in, at least from Somalia, was 80 or more percent were all on welfare programs.
And after 10 years, 80-something% were still on welfare.
Mm-hmm.
After being here for 10 years. That is the problem. A lot of these people are coming here. And that's a huge difference we discussed previously between immigrants now and these ones. immigrants now immigrants.
Well, immigrants decades ago. Immigrants
They,
decades ago came over from Italy, came over from Ireland, came over from France, they came over from Germany. And it's like the Italian ones are probably the most well known because there's a lot of Italian families where you go and ask the people who are older now, when they were children and their families came over, their parents banned them from speaking their native language, the Italian language, in the United States and in their home. They're like, you will become American.
but also.
But now they don't want to become American. They want to turn America into their shithole countries.
But they also don't contribute. The ones that came decades ago, they got here, and you have stories of people that would go and immediately sign up for one of the military forces.
Mm-hmm.
They immediately go find a job at a warehouse. Nowadays, they come here and say, "Okay, where's my house?
Yeah.
Where's my food?"
Well, the thing is,
get benefits they didn't have then.
there are people who are like that today, where they want to contribute and be part of society. I have a friend. His little brother was an anchor baby. He used to work with him at an old company. His little brother was an anchor baby. He had been brought into the U.S. by his mom illegally, and then even from childhood, he loved this country. And he strived and worked even from being just a kid when he was 8, 9, 10 years old to make sure he was legal. He wanted to be American. That's what he wanted to be. And then when he was finally of legal age, he joined the Marine Corps and was able to get his citizenship through it. And I mean, you go talk to him today, he's probably the most patriotic person you'll ever meet. He loves this country. And you see people like that today, and those people we want here. But the problem, though, is there's so many who are cutting the line, making it harder for people like him because then it stigmatizes it. It makes it so people don't want them. And that's the thing, is we get these people cutting the line, abusing the system, and then people who we want here get kind of cast off to the side.
Yep. And you have to also think about how they're not contributing a whole lot. And people have the question, I feel like some of the younger generation and some certain people, they don't know where their benefits come from. They don't know where their food stamps come from. They say it's from taxpayers. Where does the taxpayer money come from?
Yeah.
It comes from regular working people that put into the bank. If we got rid of all these people who, like you said, 80-something% of Somali who have been here for a decade, they have not gotten a job still. They are draining. Think about how much money they're getting every single month in food stamps, cash assistance, housing assistance, when Americans should be getting that.
Mm-hmm.
Veterans could be getting that. That is why we are trillions of dollars in debt. We can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
We need to cut the money somewhere.
Let's go ahead and get on to that next court ruling. Supreme Court strikes down Hawaii law requiring permission to carry guns in stores and hotels. When I read that, what does that sound like to you?
That is infringing our second.
No. Like, explain like what that headline kind of sounds like. Like, how did the law work? You have a clue?
I know I read an article that Hawaii had instituted a gun ban on their islands against the Second Amendment.
Yeah. So, this law, from what I understand, Hawaii had a law that made the default position it was illegal to carry guns on private property, like grocery stores and stuff. And to be able to carry on the property, you had to go to the people, the owners or the managers or whatever, and get permission from them to carry. Which the whole concept is like you're spoiling the concept of why you conceal carry, so other people don't know. But then also, if it's like there's a business that doesn't mind people carrying, well, either way, the default position was it's illegal to carry in that business. And so, but now it's reversed. So all that's changed is people can carry guns where they want as long as it's publicly accessible. But if you're a business that doesn't want the guns there, you just have to post it now that you don't want the guns there. The default position is no longer I'll use the Trump mannerisms of the accordion. The default position is no longer is no longer banned guns from private businesses. It's now just you can carry as long as it's publicly accessible, and they have to tell you in advance, which would be a sign, a posted sign, that there's no guns.
I'm trying to think. I think a couple of weeks ago I had an article for you. I think it may have been Hawaii. They were doing a gun buyback because they didn't want people to have the guns. And they were giving them a gift card. And they were giving them a grocery store gift card.
You know, maybe
exchange.
you and I should just go and make a crap ton of money off those gun buybacks. Because a lot of those gun buybacks, they have very low standards. There's a lot of people who will go and manufacture a cheap, quick gun because it's legal to make. And across the U.S., it is legal to make your own gun for the most part. And so a bunch of people just use quick Home Depot supplies, make their 10 or so of their own cheap guns, and then they go and get $200 or $300 a gun from the gun buybacks when they only spent $15 on the parts.
This one was for a grocery store. They gave you a small grocery store gift card.
That's stupid.
I know. It was just really? Is that going to be even
okay?
worth
Here's the
$200?
thing. That grocery store gift card is going to give you maybe $200 of food.
If you're lucky, it could have been.
And here's the kicker: it's food's getting more expensive, so it's not filling up your cart like it used to.
Yeah.
And secondly, if a disaster strikes, that gun's going to be the thing that makes sure you actually get food.
Like the wild
hogs?
Because
the thing is, it's not about even stealing food from other people, but it's about maintaining order. It's when everyone is armed, like it was here in the West for so long in the Wild West, a level of order is maintained because people know that everyone around them's armed, and they tend not to get violent because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's if there's a catastrophe, it's going to help make sure that some order is maintained. Go ahead and scroll down. Let's see the bottom two. So, let's get to the one on the right first, and I'll do the one on the left. So, Supreme Court sides with the Trump administration on green card holders' case. So, a third win. So, Trump's gotten 3 wins recently on immigration. And what this one was is it allows him to basically strip legal status from people who are green card holders if they are accused of committing a crime. Not even convicted, just accused. And the argument was, well, you're not U.S. citizens. At least this is from the Supreme Court. You are not U.S. citizens, thus you do not actually have those due process rights. The rights under the Constitution are for American citizens, which is a huge deal. It sounds like a very minor ruling, but I don't think people realize the far-reaching effects that's going to have. This is going to go down to birthright citizenship, the people who are here in the U.S. illegally, and then they have a child, and then or even if they're here in the U.S. and they are here legally, but they're still not citizens, and then they have a child. Or the another one to put it, what was it? The birth tourism from China. The birth tourism from China, that's going to effectively kill it. And we're already going to we still need to hear the Supreme Court's answer to the birthright citizenship lawsuit.
But they've on 2 of these said that you're not a citizen, you don't get the same rights as citizens.
Yes, but I think this was strategic by the court. Mm-hmm. Because releasing this one first sets the groundwork. They don't have due process rights and citizenship rights because they're not citizens. Mm-hmm. And then when the birthright citizenship ruling comes out, it's it's going to be built on this framework that because they're not citizens, because they don't have a legal status even then, none of these rules apply to them. I think this is the foundation for the framework going up to the birthright citizenship issue. Mm-hmm. Which also, seeing this kind of tells me the Supreme Court's going to rule in Trump's favor on the birthright citizenship case.
And just like I was saying about the illegal immigrants and then the ones who are here on temporary protected status and the asylum claims, they are just taking a bunch of the money I've seen articles about that too, where birthright tourism, they'll come here, have the baby, file the paperwork, oh, they're a citizen, have Medicaid or Medicare pay for it all, then they fly back home. So it's like, I don't have a hospital bill.
And here's the thing: I don't think people realize quite yet the far-reaching effects of this case, because it's saying, when they said in this case that, or once they release this ruling, that if you're not a citizen, you don't have these rights, you don't have due process rights. That's gonna reach into lawsuits, like civil lawsuits. So if a foreigner sues someone inside the U.S. for something that happened inside the U.S., even you're gonna get the argument from the American citizen saying, well, he's not an American citizen, he doesn't have standing to sue inside our courts.
This also makes me wonder.
This is gonna probably reach into that.
But this also makes me wonder if it reaches into that diplomatic immunity that people sometimes try doing.
No,
that
it
if
probably
they
won't.
do some kind of crime that is not diplomatic related, they can get
that it's not going to, and the reasons because the diplomatic immunity stuff is written into law. But also, it would require a president to actually want to enforce it. And so even if you strip diplomatic immunity, the president himself will still probably not enforce it, because if he doesn't, it may end up kind of choke holding him on the issue of on negotiations and whatnot.
Yeah, but some people,
or it might force him to have to take all negotiations overseas and not bring people here to the U.S.
Yeah, but you have to still wonder if people do horrible things and they get away with it because they have that protection.
Oh,
which is
I agree. They shouldn't be doing those things, breaking the law when they come into the U.S. But we have those diplomatic immunities for reasons, and it's a lot of it's because all these people we negotiate with are freaking degenerates.
So, are you going to open your other drink over there?
Maybe. Oh, that's not a drink, but I do have another drink. I love my hot sauce. I'm gonna just let my hot sauce sit there for everyone to see. It's
they don't
one of the best hot sauces in the world.
They can't see the name on it.
I know, it's really tiny on there. Rippin' Fire Roasted Tomato and Garlic by Rippin' Rowley's. Absolutely fabulous hot sauce. All right, let's get to that last one. So this one, a lot of people in the Maha movement are upset about this. This is a win for Trump in a way. And a partial win for MAGA. But the Maha movement isn't too happy about this, and I understand why.
What's up?
Oh, Andrew's messaging me about doing Magic the Gathering tomorrow night.
Oh, you're going to go?
Yeah, we haven't done it in a while. I kind of missed it. Alright, so, back on topic. So this isn't a ruling as to whether or not they really did anything right or wrong. This is a ruling on procedure. Well, kind of. It's more of a ruling on supremacy of law rather than whether or not Roundup, the company, I think it's Monsanto, but Monsanto's owned, and I think it recently had been bought out by another company. So it's bigger, but it's procedural. So basically, they were being sued. I can't remember if they were being sued by individual people or by states. It doesn't really matter. Either way, it went to the Supreme Court because they didn't label on their product that it can cause cancer in accordance with state regulations. And when it comes to this, the Supreme Court ruled that basically the federal labeling law on this takes precedent, and that's the default position. So it's hard to say because it's kind of just a mixed issue.
Yeah, but at the exact same time, they shouldn't be spraying this stuff around. It's not good.
If it can cause cancer, they should have labeled that. Mm-hmm. But according to FDA, they don't necessarily. It's not proven to cause cancer. But at the same time, everyone knows the history of the FDA. They don't have a good track record when it comes to this crap in the first place.
But at the exact same time, if this does cause cancer, I've seen other articles about them. They're being found spraying it all over the public woods area, which is not good.
Yeah, but the reason why I say this is kind of a mix. It's a partial win for MAGA and a partial win for Maha, when you actually dig into the idea, because this is the idea of this lawsuit, is that the federal regulation takes precedent on this issue. And if this is an FDA regulation that's taking precedent and it's being prioritized by the courts, then what we're going to probably see is now RFK Jr. at the head of Health and Human Services that oversees the FDA. They're gonna his rules and his policies are going to take much more effect on a nationwide basis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like even California, if they don't want any of his policies, if someone sues in the state of California and it goes up into federal courts, the federal courts are going to rule in favor of the federal policies on this because of this ruling. So if he's pushing an agenda to ban certain, like say how he wants to get rid of red 40 and yellow 5, you get rid of those dyes on a federal level, but then all of a sudden California doesn't want that and tries to stop it or block it or allows the sale of those things still in the state, and someone sues over that, well, the precedent from this case will be, no, federal regulation takes precedent. Those are banned. You're not allowed to use those in the U.S. or in U.S. food products. So it's a partial win, a partial loss. It's like, yes.
Partial win because he can influence regulations.
Yeah, it's a partial loss because, yes, Roundup should have been labeling these things because, let's be honest, a lot of the crap that we use causes cancer. But it's a partial win because this gives RFK Jr.'s policy implementations, his regulations, the things he wants to do, much more force across the nation. So it's, yeah, I understand why a lot of the Maha people are not happy about it, but at the same time it's like, but RFK Jr., this kind of gave him more power on a nationwide basis. And I don't mind giving him more power. He may be kind of a liberal in many aspects, but I can tell you where his heart is, and he wants Americans to be healthy.
Yep, he
and
does.
He really is intent. That's his true intent, is wanting Americans to be healthy, and he's really trying to do the right thing.
Apparently,
and I can't argue against the things he's done so far. He's been doing a pretty good job.
I guess a judge somewhere ruled against banning people from buying sodas and pop and candies on SNAP.
Yeah.
But the name of it, supplemental nutrition. That's not nutritional.
Yeah, no, that's something we need to fix, is a lot of our welfare programs. Because even if we don't get rid of them, like I want to do, just get rid of them, return that stuff back to the community, get rid of the taxes for all that crap too. Give that responsibility back to the communities where the people need help at.
And people just complain. They want the SNAP to be able to buy candy and such because their kids need a treat. They want to buy their kids cookies. You can still buy the sugar, flour, chocolate chips, and make it yourself.
Yeah, I get why they say that. Like, yeah, you want to get your kid a treat every once in a while, but at the same time, it's not meant for you to be just buying a bunch of sodas and Oreos.
Like a bunch of Pop-Tarts?
Yeah, or a bunch of Pop-Tarts. It's meant to help make sure you get some of the important things for life. And then the money you do have, that's your money, you can use that to get the treats every once in a while. Or as you said, just buy the ingredients, and then you can turn around and make them. But that's the other issue. There's the lady who was arrested for, I think, the welfare fraud or the food stamp fraud. She was buying the ingredients, then making the cookies, and then turning around and selling the cookies for more money. It didn't specify
what she was selling. She was just selling
something.
Well,
she was buying ingredients with the welfare program or the frickin' food stamps, and then turning around and selling the products she was making from that. It was like, what, like millions of dollars, wasn't it?
No, it was at least around, I think they're fining her between $300,000 to $500,000.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere, it might have
then
been
I definitely
200.
Misheard it.
It might have been $200-something thousand, but it's $200,000 to $500,000.
It was a pretty big sum of money that
she did it for over a year, and I guess that was like her little business. So she was taking all of her food stamps to buy the stuff.
I mean, I can't really be mad at her. I mean, she saw an opportunity and she took it. but seriously, though, that's not what you're supposed to do for... The whole point is to help your family, not help you start your own business.
Well, I've heard
Get
rumors,
a freaking business loan for that.
I've heard rumors of, like, possibly the Somalis and other people, they would buy stuff with the food stamps. They have their own little grocery store, take it, put on the shelf, and resell it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and it's the people that have a couple wives, tons of children. It's just not good. People will do stuff like that, and that's why you and I discussed going back to the regular way, where you get, it's a set thing, not just you spend willy-nilly, unless you get a special privilege.
I mean, that's the thing, we call it food stamps, and back in the day, they were actual stamps that you turned in for rations back in the day. So it's like, back then, it's like you had your stamp for your can of beans, and you had your stamp for your rice. And maybe we should get back to that, where it's much more restricted on. WIC
is restricted.
WIC is very restricted.
You get this many pounds of fruit, this many pounds of vegetables, this many gallons of milk.
Yeah.
It is very restricted. It should be back to that way, where you get this many pounds.
Yeah.
You get to choose and assort it, but that's just...
Yeah.
Be a little bit more picky. Be a bit more
that
careful.
wouldn't be a bad way to do it. Just go to poundage of food and say it has to be produce or frozen food. Like whole foods, like frozen broccoli, frozen vegetable mixes, stuff like that.
And I know people want variety, but you get money from somewhere else. Buy what you want that way. It's supposed to be nutritional, not junk food.
All right, so let's get to the next the next subject. We got... On X.com here, the DOJ has arrested 324,000 defendants across 50 federal districts and 12 state AG offices in connection with $14.6 billion healthcare fraud schemes. A lot of this is connected to the Somali fraud that we had reported on before, the Somali welfare fraud and the hospice fraud and stuff like that. Well, even in Minnesota, right? Yeah, Minnesota. Even in Minnesota, though, it was all sorts of like healthcare provider fraud. Whereas a lot of these companies associated with healthcare companies or childcare, the freaking the Leering Center.
Yep.
And so, $14.6 billion worth of healthcare fraud schemes.
But the sad part
across 12 states.
We have to have people possibly getting injured and dying to get their attention, such as the elderly person. I think it happened in California, where he was supposed to be getting services. They never rendered the services. He died, and they found out he was never given the hospice service that he was supposed to get because it was a fake agency. Yeah, the
agency was fake, but then also it doesn't have to be that people die to be able to find out about this stuff, because you have to remember it's like we have, what's his name? Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley had really brought a lot of this to the forefront of people's minds when he started doing his exposés on all this stuff, too.
And this says exactly how I feel.
Let me get this straight. There's SNAP fraud, EBT fraud, Medicaid fraud, Medicare fraud, home health care fraud, daycare fraud, medical transportation fraud, hospice fraud, but we're supposed to believe there's absolutely zero election fraud.
It's 100% true.
And the thing is, too, so much of this stuff requires better identification requirements than the voter registration in some states. And you expect that there's zero voter fraud? No, I know what you mean. It's like there's all this fraud, and you're telling me that there's absolutely zero election fraud?
We were discussing...
maybe like at least a couple votes in Utah could be fraudulent.
We were discussing the article our lieutenant governor put out saying, we removed this many people from the rolls, but it said so in that exact same article. There are 5,000 people. They don't know if they're citizens or not.
Yeah. Well, I just thought of a funny joke.
What?
On the podcast, this is probably the most I ever listened to you.
Thank you very much.
I love you. Oh, I love you, babe. Sorry. I just thought it was a funny joke.
So here are the list of the 12 states.
All right. California.
Supposedly.
Okay, so first of all, not a surprise. Many of the states that are on here is not a surprise at all. California, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, Missouri, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Wisconsin. I'm actually surprised Minnesota is not on this list. Or is there just so much they're just going to deal with that on its own as its own subject? I don't know what to make of this list because, yeah, I mean, I'm surprised Minnesota is not on this list, and that was where the big expose was by Nick Shirley.
Yeah.
So oh well.
We can't 100% guarantee that's 100% the full list. They just said that they got it from the U.S. Department of Justice, but it's just an estimate. But
it also depends on, like, the thing is, specific healthcare fraud they're targeting is in these states, but it may just not be in Minnesota. There's only 12 out of 50 states. So there's still a lot of states that isn't in here, that aren't on here.
And you have to think, with all of this fraud that's going on, if they actually did a thorough scrub of every single state, I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe at least $1 trillion of fraud. If you think about this has been going on year after year after year. That might account for our trillions of dollars in debt.
Mm-hmm.
If you get rid of all of the people who are not contributing and start being a little bit stricter, get everyone back to work, get rid of all this fraud, we might start getting ourselves out of debt.
Yeah. And also, who knows, once we get rid of all this fraud, what will happen in the country. It's like, look at the USAID. USAID, when it was shut down by Elon Musk and Trump administration, over all the money going across the country, we saw a whole bunch of things. One, all of a sudden now, the Democrats going into these primaries are like $3 million in debt, and the Republicans are in a couple $100 million in the bank ready to go.
And we found out tons of them are doing
So
horrible funds.
All of a sudden USAID goes away, and now all of a sudden the Democrats don't have any money for their campaign. But then on top of that, as soon as USAID goes away, all of a sudden now all of these far left-wing factions in South America are collapsing on themselves. And all of a sudden these right-wing factions or more conservative factions are now all of a sudden becoming more popular right after USAID happened. It makes you wonder what's going on with all this fraud, where all the money's going. Because we know from the Minnesota fraud, a whole bunch of the money was going straight back to Somalia, and quite a bit of it was getting in the hands, I think it was the Houthis, one of the terrorist groups over there.
And we saw when Doge was coming out with those reports, they were sending money outside the country to the weirdest things, to the weirdest places. Was it even officially being used?
I have no clue.
That way?
Maybe for Epstein's Island.
And some things were for propaganda against the United States or propaganda against something.
Yeah, no, USAID, there was a lot of money going to other countries that would then turn around and propagandize against the U.S.
Some of the things listed
so we were
paying.
Propaganda. That's the thing, is like, what was it? Was it Thomas Massey, or was it Rand Paul? Maybe it was Ron Paul. I can't remember. One of them was just like, we're paying all these countries that hate us. I'm pretty sure they can just hate us for free when we finally got rid of USAID. It's like, why are we paying them and they're just hating us? We know they'll hate us either way, so let's just let them do it for free. Let's stop paying them for it.
And you think about it, all these places keep raising our property taxes. Oh, if they get rid of all that fraud, they might realize they have a huge surplus of money.
You get rid of all the fraud, all of a sudden they don't need to frickin' raise their taxes anymore, because you would think anyone, regardless of party, would want to crack down on fraud on any of these programs. But no, it's like, it's only Republicans, and even then, it's only half of the frickin' Republicans, because we're still in a civil war in the party. The MAGA faction is still slowly gaining ground and taking over the Republican Party. And then the Democrat Party, none of them even give a crap about the fraud. They're just like, let's get more money and throw it at the problem. And it's like, that's not going to help.
Well, they're also, in California, just passed that Nick Shirley law, which is very sad for our independent journalists.
I mean, how do you justify that? Seriously,
fraud.
Though.
Protecting fraud.
You pass a law protecting people from being exposed by independent reporters like Nick Shirley. Like, how do you justify that law that cracks down on freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, not even speech, just freedom of the press, to be able to do investigative journalism? That law kills investigative journalism. There's no such thing as investigative journalism in California anymore. And the best thing that could happen right now is Nick Shirley goes and breaks that law just so he can get arrested and then go through the courts with it. Because you really think In the California courts, it'll probably be upheld and he'll be in jail. But the moment he gets into the federal courts, there's no way that can hold up. Even the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is over California, I don't even think they would uphold that because they're very liberal, and I've been surprised by how conservative sometimes they've been on certain issues.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no freaking way that can really stand up in court.
Yeah, because it's infringing on. They're taking the taxpayers' money, our money, because they get money from the federal government. So our Utah money somehow goes to the federal government and then gets distributed to them. So still our money is getting given to fraudsters.
Yeah.
In every single state.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd, and I really hope someone just decides to challenge it head on. And I think Nick Shirley might even be the best person for it because he's already gotten so well known for it and has gotten a lot of revenue from his videos in now that he could actually pay for the lawsuit as well.
Well, he has to pay for security guards because people are threatening him, which they shouldn't. He's
Yep.
exposing the truth.
Yeah, it's the wicked get quite threatened by the truth. All right, let's get to that next tab. Let's see what else we got here. All right, Imperial Valley Data Center developer files lawsuit seeking access to Colorado River. This, a little bit more of a boring topic. We won't spend much time on it. They're having to sue because they're not given access to Colorado River water. They want it because they need it for their cooling.
But they first of all said they were never, ever going to use it.
Yeah, they kept saying they were never going to use it. Now all of a sudden they say, oh, we need it and we're going to sue for it. And the problem is this is an interstate issue. This is not one state. It's not just in Colorado. Several states rely on the Colorado River, and pulling water out of it's an issue. So you got Colorado, you got Utah, there's a little bit of Arizona. It does pass through Arizona, and also does it go into Nevada?
I think that's the border.
I'm pretty sure.
I think that's the border, so technically they get a little bit.
No, because Nevada has a straight border right there.
Then never mind. I'm thinking
It goes
this
down
spot.
through a corner of Arizona. And I can't remember if it does go into California or if it continues further south.
Yeah.
But it's multiple states are involved in it. All of the states that are involved in it are all very dry states. Utah is very consistently the second driest state in the U.S. It changes year to year, but we've never been the driest state, but we've been the second driest a lot. And the driest always bounces back and forth between New Mexico and Arizona and whatnot. New Mexico doesn't get anything from the Colorado River. Because the Colorado River comes through Utah anyway, so there's no way it can actually go into New Mexico as well, unless it switches directions entirely. But then it's going through the wrong part of Arizona. Because is that the Hoover Dam?
I think, because the Colorado River does go through Grand Canyon for the...
Yeah, it goes through the Grand Canyon. No, Hoover Dam's Nevada, isn't it? Yeah.
Sorry.
No, so it's the wrong part. I'm thinking of the wrong part of the U.S. But yeah, the Colorado River goes through Utah, then down into the Grand Canyon. And not only does each of the states rely on the Colorado River quite a bit, but then also the environment through that whole section. That's really the only water for a long ways in parts of Arizona and in parts of Utah.
Yeah.
So it's like no one can really afford dicking around with the Colorado River much.
Yeah.
We've come to a very tenuous arrangement basically with the Colorado River between all of us states.
But that's why we're only bringing this up to show you, even though a data center says they're going to do this,
yeah, they
may not stick
They're
to it.
lying. This is the thing, is another case of a data center lying about what they're going to need, and now all of a sudden, now that they're there, now that they're built, they're now trying to change directions.
Well, just like you and I were talking about the SCOTUS project, I was talking to you about NEDA's legislation.
Oh no, I do have that up here.
You did?
Not the SCOTUS project specifically, but I do have an article about the fallout from it in our Utah primaries.
Yeah, but we are looking at it, and it seems that MEDA has the right to expand, so if MEDA even gets a small, teeny, tiny amount of property in Box Elder, they can just keep expanding it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing,
That is
is
the
they're now
problem.
all of a sudden talking about decreasing the size of the SCOTUS project in Utah. Well, we'll get to this in a little while. Let's hit up that next article.
Okay,
We have more of that we're going to talk about, so let's just talk about it
Okay.
all in the same
But
section.
let's just quickly finish up this last article to tell you about it. Is here they were supposed to get wastewater from a couple of cities.
Mhm.
The cities dropped out. That's the only reason why they're saying now we have to take from the Colorado River. So the question is, was this their whole entire plan, or are they telling the truth that they could not get the wastewater they needed?
Well, could have been that they were going to get the wastewater, and then the city found out what's going to happen to it, and they're like, well, maybe we don't want that wastewater getting the chemicals that they may end up accidentally or purposely putting into it before they dispose of it.
And the reason why they're suing is they are contracted. They're renting out a farm farther downstream from where their data center is, and they say the farm will use this much water.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much water the farm uses. We are not going to run the farm. We're going to take that water and use it in the data center. That is our offer there. But the question is, are they going to later on sneakily not keep renting that farm and give it back and still keep on demanding the water because they've already given it to them?
Who knows?
Companies will kind of do that kind of shady stuff.
I mean, I can't blame them for trying to do what they can for the profit, but at the same time, we need to be much harsher on these data centers, making sure they're not screwing us over in the process.
And they want 260 million gallons of river water every year. That's how much they are wanting. They said it's a last resort. They have no choice because they did not get the water they needed.
Yeah.
But
probably because the cities realized how bad they're actually going to be.
But it looks like they were trying to be sneaky here. They were backing a new board of directors. The person lost. Now they're doing the suit. So I'm thinking
they were going to get a deal, get what they want, but then their guy lost, and now all of a sudden they're not going to get it. All right, next tab. Let's get on to the next subject. We'll get over to data centers some more.
I know, but
I should have put them next to each other, and we can do that real quick if you want.
Which one is it?
The yellow one, just pull it over.
But I just thought I'd let you know that is what I
So
found
let's go back to that first one. So earlier this year, IVCM backed a challenger for IIDs.
Yeah, Imperial Irrigation
board of
District.
Board of directors in this month's primary election. Russi filed his most recent lawsuit. So
just
the
days
person
after his candidates
did the person fail to win their primary? Okay.
Yeah, just days after the candidate's overwhelming loss.
So that's interesting because they lost, and it probably may have been in relation to the data center. Let's go to the next tab now. Now it's the next tab. Okay. Unpacking Utah's primary upsets, the race that's sending shockwaves through the legislature. We had our primary elections here in Utah for the Republican Party. And, well, it did not go very well. Our Utah State Senate leader is out. He has been in office for about 20 years. He's been in office in the Senate for 16 in his seat.
And he is the chair.
He's the chair of MIDA, the president of the MIDA organization, the legislative organization, and he has been kicked out. So he's lost basically all power.
Unless they keep him as an elected person because
now
they can elect someone else.
This article gets into it. We can scroll down, but this article gets into it that he has had 2 controversies, by the way, in his leadership as the Senate president. This MIDA one's the most recent one, and it's the one that's kicking people out of office. His first one was the last year. Remember the piece of shit in our state legislator who got a law passed that allowed his granddaughter to make a plea deal on a sexual abuse case of a minor?
Yeah.
That's this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Stuart Adams. His granddaughter is the one who molested a kid.
Or step-granddaughter, just someone that's connected to him.
Someone related to him, that he then was able to get a law passed that made it possible for her to make a plea deal. So, this piece of shit is out of office. Now, it wasn't that. That was probably part of the issue why he lost. But all the other people who lost also were part of this MIDA issue with the Box Elder County Data Center MIDA project.
Mm-hmm.
So we got him that lost his seat. Scroll on down. And then there's also, in the primary, two of the 3 county commissioners were up for election. They faced primaries.
Yep.
And they lost as well. And it's all because of the MIDA blowback. There were some other primaries that incumbents lost.
Mm-hmm.
But this person here analyzed it, and they say that it was probably not due to MIDA at all or any of these controversies because they weren't talked about in it. Mm-hmm. They think it was just because their challengers were very effective. And so they just lost because they had a quality candidate going against them who challenged them, and they just weren't able to beat them out.
And this year was unique, marking Adams' first ever primary in his 16 years of Senate.
Yeah.
He's never ever had a
He hasn't ever been primaried before.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been in there forever, completely unchallenged for so long. And now he's been kicked out. Yeah. In a matter of a few months, this is blown up so badly, he now is kicked out.
Yeah, very end of April.
Yeah.
Beginning of May, we found out about MIDA. They finally got on the board.
So Stuart Adams is out. I don't know. I was looking at his replacement for the Republican candidate.
Yeah.
It's her right there. No, scroll down. Yes. Well, yeah, scroll up. There's a picture of her right there on the right. Those are the 2 other primary challengers next to him. He's in the middle. She's the one that won the primary. And I don't know if it's going to change anything.
Yeah.
I mean, she was elected by the anti-data center push. So she may recognize that and realize that she has to push against them because that's who elected her in her district.
And I think Mike Schultz is on the MIDA too. Is he up for election sometime soon? He might lose his.
I didn't hear anything about him, so he might be the next cycle. But so she won. I went to her page, her candidate page, and it was a lot of the normal refuse that comes out of politicians' mouth. Not saying she's a bad person, but when you go and you read someone's campaign page and it reads just like every other candidate, what can I say about it? It's the same. It's just the same shit. It's the same refuse coming out. She may be a lot better as an option, but when it's written out the way it was written out on her page, it doesn't sound any different than anybody else running for the office.
Or is she hoping to be like Stuart Adams, not have any kind of competition for 16 years and just enjoy her luxury seat?
Maybe.
We need to have more competitions where it's
and when it comes to that,
person.
When it comes to that, it's like, people, you need to remember how important our local and state elections are. The people in your local areas have much more direct influence over affecting your daily life, and same thing with the state than the federal government. Yes, federal elections are important, but you will be shocked if you start digging into it. You will be shocked at how much corruption is even in just these smaller communities that you would never expect. It's like here in Salem, Utah. Like frickin' John, when he was running for city council, he ran into a lot of that red tape and a lot of that corruption from within the system, from people who didn't like him or didn't like his mom, and were going against him, saying crap online about him, spreading lies about him online. And, well, what do you expect? It's like, it's politics. But you'd be surprised at how bad it can be in your local areas. And if you want to really change the nation as a whole, you got to learn how to change it in your community.
Well, we've also discussed that in some ways, Governor Cox shouldn't be our governor because he did not get his paperwork turned in into certain places on time, but still his lieutenant governor made sure his name was on that
something
ballot.
that kind of annoys the crap out of me is online when after the primaries were done and Lyman had lost for the 3rd district here, 3rd congressional district here in Utah. people were going on, like, oh, here comes the lawsuits about this election not being legitimate. This election must have been rigged because it didn't go Lyman's way. It's like, they clearly are uninformed about what happened. It wasn't the election, it was a primary. And two, it was factually rigged. It was the rules of our primary election were violated by Cox. He lost the caucus. The caucuses overwhelmingly just obliterated him. No one wanted him in the caucuses. So to get on the ballot in the primary, he had to do a signature campaign. So he went around and got all the signatures and submitted them and got on the ballot. Then after the fact, after he actually gets to becoming governor because he won the election, now all of a sudden it's all the information's coming out about all the signatures that were fraudulent or were not qualified. Not necessarily fraud. There was a bunch of signatures. There were some signatures that were fake or fraud, but there was a lot of them where it's just they were not valid. They were not properly done, or they were not from the right regions or whatever.
And I saw an article early in 2024. They're supposed to be putting out a bill taking the election away from the lieutenant governor, and he asked them to shelve it so it would not interfere with his election that year because of that kind of crap.
Yep. Oh yeah. All right. But that's the thing, too, is I have a lot of problems with our state constitution. I would love to see our state constitution just stripped away and just replace it with the federal constitution, which would basically just make the governor powerless inside the state of Utah, and it would be individual county commissions that would have a lot more power.
But we're not happy about Celeste Malloy getting the primary because she rubs shoulders with Democrats, which is fine, but she does not represent any of us Republicans. She's just trying to get back over to Washington, D.C. She doesn't care about what
it's sad. Yeah. Because she doesn't, we'll have to see how well she does, but she doesn't seem like a particularly great candidate. So we'll just have to see.
Yep.
Was Malloy endorsed by Trump?
I don't know.
Because if he did, he's going to regret it. I bet you he's going to regret it. Because we've had a lot of these candidates that have gotten in like that, and let's be honest, we've had a lot of these people be quite disappointing. And the thing is, it's like a bunch of people say, well, Phil Lyman would be a disappointment. Well, the problem is he hasn't been able to win to be a disappointment for us. And I'd much rather have his disappointment than Celeste Malloy's disappointment. She's got a weird smile.
Yeah, but I just know I've seen some stuff. I can't remember what, but she doesn't really support Utah values.
No, I don't particularly like her.
But the people spoke, so you guys need to vote in your primaries if you have a chance. Don't ignore it. It's part of your duty as a citizen.
Primaries are much more important than you realize. You gotta participate in the primaries. Either in the primaries or the caucuses. You gotta participate in them. Alright, next tab. Wasatch County attempts to block Daniels Canyon mine through appeal. So we're going further into Utah news. This has been an interesting dive for us because we found out some bits about how the law works. Apparently, according to this company, based off how the law is written, they could just frickin' open up a frickin' mine on Main Street in Heber City if they wanted to. Which, if that is how the law is written, if he's telling the truth, well, then we got a problem because that law is clearly outdated. Clearly, the law is meant for, like, oh, well, it's another empty area where no one's at. We should be able to open a mine here because it has similar mineral deposits.
So,
not meant for you to just kind of go wherever the hell you want, like this, where they're going to be super close to an entire city's water supply that they could easily contaminate.
Yeah, we're seeing the contamination happening over in West Virginia, or West Virginia.
One of the two.
One of their streams are getting contaminated, and no one's saying who's doing it.
Yeah.
So
this thing, I'm all for mining because we do need to do mining. I want us to get away from getting the rare earth minerals from third world countries that are using these child laborers and the slave labor. I want to get away from that. But we shouldn't be going and putting in the mine right next to a city's freaking water supply where there's a good chance, even accidentally, that they'll end up contaminating the water.
Yep. So this was filed the Utah Court of Appeals June 10th. And Maverick, so it's called Maverick Rock, mines limestone and shale about 40 miles away in Goshen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to pull up a map to show you where Goshen and...
Don't worry about it.
Okay, it's
if they're watching the show at this point and they're interested in Utah, they probably already know where Goshen's at.
And the company says it can bring operations to 426 acres of land along U.S. Highway 40 based on a Utah law that lets companies bypass the typical public planning process required of new mines. Instead, a company can expand its mining rights into a new area if it has enough structural similarities to and shared history with its existing mine.
Yeah. Right there in yellow. The owner said they could open a mine on Main Street in Heber if there was this same mineral deposit, and there's nothing Heber City or Wasatch County or any other entity could do to stop them. Yeah, but you know what? If you open a mine on Heber City, Main Street, don't be surprised if you start getting terrorist attacks against your mine, killing your people. Mm-hmm. Like, you open up a mine inside the middle of a city, you're disrupting the entire city's way of life. Don't be surprised when you get unwelcome feedback.
Well, and here, the county, he said, has obtained records showing Maverick intends to mine at additional sites in Wasatch County and Saratoga Springs under the law. So they're planning on spreading to 2 new places besides this one. So 3 new places they're planning on spreading because of this law, without having to have any kind of scrutiny.
And this law right here is actually why I think we should just get rid of our state constitution and replace it with the federal constitution and just rewrite it so that way anything federal Congress is, it's the state legislator, and anything that the state does, it's the county. Because it will prevent crap like this. Because it will give the president or governor of each county more power than the governor of the state of Utah would have inside their own area. Mm-hmm. And they could and any of these entities, or the county commissions, would be able to just shut down whatever or anything they want. And then with all that power, they're very, very liable to accountability amongst the people around them. And so that it's like the Wasatch County would have to be super careful what they do, because they'd get kicked out and you could have a whole change of system there entirely, and the governor wouldn't be able to do crap about it either. Mm-hmm. But then the governor wouldn't be able to do any of this crap with the freaking MITA project out there as well. So
in relation to mines, it's an article we cut on one of our previous podcasts, and it's talking about, I believe, in Georgia. There's a family farm in Georgia, and the company is trying to use the government to do eminent domain, to take public land to build a train track for a private company.
Yeah.
To say it's going to be used for public use.
See, I don't understand it. How is there not already a train track nearby? Why would you need to cut through a farmer's land to do it?
They want to build a new track instead of having to use trailers, trucks. They don't want to use trucks.
See, the thing is, I don't see how they can do it. I don't see how they don't already have tracks nearby that they can go from without just destroying a bunch or taking a bunch of farmland. And this is for private business, for private benefit. Mm-hmm. It's not for public use like a public highway.
So we need to be careful. Some of these private entities are trying to do the same thing. We've discussed previously in another state, they took a farmer's land for a private airport.
Yeah.
For commercial jets.
Yeah.
It's not for public use.
Yep.
So we need to be careful.
This is the other thing too. We need to get rid of eminent domain.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've told you a good way to deal with eminent domain. Okay, they need to give them fair, acceptable value. My fair, acceptable value is you need to give them the exact same amount of property in a similar place, similar everything, You have to be able to do that.
I
and transport
disagree with it.
everything
I
over.
think it has to be more. I think they have to pay them 15 times the price of the property.
Well, I mean, it doesn't
And
matter.
it can't be assessed by them. It has to be. They have to pay for whoever the owner wants to have assessed the property.
I'm
The
just
owner
saying
gets to choose who assesses it, and they have to pay for that assessment.
But I think this could cost them a lot more money if they say, I want to stay in this local area, and they have to find another 600 acres, exact same similar, to relocate the whole entire farm to do the eminent domain. It's like, make it fair and equal. You take 600 acres, give me my new 600
That's things
acres.
I still don't think it's enough because, quite frankly, I don't think eminent domain should even exist. There
I
should
know.
be no. There should be no capacity for government to steal property from people.
But I'm just
Because
saying,
that's what it is. Even if you're giving them money, it's still stealing. It's like, here, look at it. Okay, when there's slaves who are being paid and they're being forced to work, but they're being paid, no, they're still slaves. When you're taking property away from them, oh, we're paying for it, but by force, it's still theft. You're still stealing that person's land, that person's property.
I agree with you on that one, but I'm just saying if you had to do a compromise, give them equal amount of land that you took. And it has to be similar value or valued even more. Because they try to shortcut all the time.
Oh, yeah, no, they
do.
would try to find the crappiest land for you to have.
And I'm like, has to be very similar. Same kind of tree, same everything. You need to, and then you have to relocate me. And all
Yeah.
my stuff.
We'll see. I think eminent domain as a whole needs to go away. I'm still looking into my Brandon. He was on the show. I was still looking into Brandon's topic of conversation we were having about taxation itself actually being by the state and below actually being unconstitutional. I've been trying to find arguments against it because I want to find arguments against it for the purpose of me understanding what the opposition to that would say, so I can try and argue against that, because I want what he said to be true so badly. But I'm trying to prove it wrong still. I'm working hard to still try and prove it wrong because I want it to be the best. I want the best argument in favor that we can get. But there is a theory of a constitutional theory out there, by the way, people, that state taxes, local taxes, county taxes may in fact actually be completely unconstitutional. They may not have any power to tax at all. So I'm looking into it. I'm trying to study and read and understand it. Mostly because I want it to be true so badly.
Well, they
But-
shouldn't be taking the homes from elderly. They should be
No.
able to live in their homes the rest of
Yeah.
their life and be happy.
Yep. All right. Next tab. All right. Venezuela had some pretty major earthquakes. I should have put this a little sooner before we got into Utah news. But Venezuela had some pretty bad earthquakes, a doublet earthquake. Scroll on down. So a 7.2 and a 7.5. Scroll down. We got a map right there. So you can see Caracas there in the middle to the right, just to the left of the two actual earthquake marks, and there's a third one off to the left. I believe that third one's an aftershock. And then there was a foreshock and then the main earthquake. And it was called a doublet because that foreshock was almost as powerful as the primary earthquake. So 7.2 and then 7.5.
So these are the earthquakes and these are the aftershocks. It says so. These are the aftershocks. These are the earthquakes. So by San Felipe.
Okay, there we go. I'm seeing that.
Yeah, San Felipe.
Yeah, still pretty close to Caracas, not that far away. But yeah, then the aftershocks were nice and close. The aftershocks can still be quite devastating too.
That's just weird. They have the dates wrong.
Hmm?
Oh, that's a different aftershock case.
Yeah.
So the earthquakes happen,
That one's
these
still an
aftershocks
aftershock that's
happen.
occurring.
then there's. Okay. Sorry, I got a mixed
Yeah,
up.
so the earthquake epicenters, and it was the first earthquake, and then 39 seconds later is what it said was the second earthquake. 7.2, and then the second one was the primary. There's the foreshock, and then 7.5 earthquake. Major earthquakes. They're all 7.5 is already able to do a massive amount of damage, but then they just got rocked by two of them in a row. So anything that didn't fall before did fall after. Scroll on down. There's some more information on the page. Keep going. Just keep going until I say stop, basically. Keep going. That's a history of earthquakes. So here's the fault lines. So you can basically see this is what the Caribbean looks like. You can see where the 7.2 magnitude earthquake had hit Haiti that we were talking about earlier for the Haitian migrants that had temporary protected status all those years ago. No, that wasn't. Oh, that must have been a different one because I was thinking of the one that the Clintons were involved in, and they stole all the money. So they had one even more recently too. So then you got Venezuela. And all those lines, all those blue lines you're seeing are the fault lines. So you can kind of see like where all these earthquakes are.
They may be coming. They may have done this because they were mentioning a bunch of Haitians were coming across the border when Biden was president.
Yeah.
He became president in 2021.
Yeah, so that was probably part of it too. Yeah. Is they had another earthquake happen and they came across again.
But they were coming from South America. They waited until an earthquake, then they quickly rushed here saying, "Oh, we came from Haiti," when they've been in South America for years.
All right, keep scrolling down. I believe there's something else to look at. Keep going. They had some photos. All right, here we go. This one. So you can click and hold on that center thing, the arrows, and go back and forth. This is a before and after. So photos they have of before and after. It doesn't help that the photos are slightly different angles from the satellite images. That's just a quick before and after of some of the buildings that collapsed.
Yep, so you can see the buildings down here. Up there are gone.
Yep.
As well, that one's rough.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them are just absolutely
those guys are
obliterated.
Gone. These two over here
and those are apartment buildings too, and so those are the people were living in those. There may have been a lot of people who've died in these earthquakes, and it's going to be a while until we actually get a total casualty count. Because I guarantee you, there were people in those buildings.
Unless they're doing a major recession, so like Chicago, where a lot of people moved out. Mm-hmm. That'd be the only lucky thing right now is if there are a bunch of people out.
Yeah.
Of the,
and there's more of these, but yeah, so the LDS Church is already sending a bunch of aid. And there's been a lot of other pledges for aid to Venezuela for over these earthquakes. So they're going to get the aid they need. And now that they're not closed off as much, thanks to Trump, they're probably going to get a lot more aid more readily available to them.
And here are houses.
Yeah, it's
it's
kind of dumb because you can tell when you do that, the buildings that aren't ruined, they look quite different. It's because of the camera angle of the satellites. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, the houses aren't really destroyed. What you're seeing is some of them are destroyed and some of them are offset.
These look like actual, kind of duplexes. Like there might be 2 or 3 layers, like condos.
Yeah, but they might just be small ones, like duplexes or quadruplexes.
Well, if you look at the cars.
I know, but then you can see the cars though are all those. There's a bunch of damaged cars in the area, so it's probably just cars that got disabled from the earthquake bouncing around too much.
Yeah, I'd say they're condos because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 windows.
Yeah.
You can say when they're 4 windows down. So.
Yeah, it does look like a lot of the way the buildings look is just because of the angle, but you can tell there is a lot of damage to them too. So, sucks. Yeah. Sucks for Venezuela, but they're going to be getting a bunch of aid, so there is that at least. That's going well for them. Whew. Man, I'm getting tired already. All right, let's go ahead and hit up.
It's gone.
Yeah. No, I was going through all these playing with that before. There's a lot of damage.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get them recovered as quickly as possible. All right, let's hit up that next tab. Now for the other subject in Utah.
We need the rain.
The entire freaking state is pretty much on fire. We've got, 170-something thousand acres now is burned down. You can scroll down. You'll probably see the estimate somewhere on there.
We need rain.
Yeah, the entire damn state's on fire. I always like to just blame it on the Californians bringing their culture here.
Kyle, you chose such a short article. There's no amount. It just says here.
Okay. And there was a different article that I saw. There weren't any real good photos of the ones over here by Eureka. So the whole damn state's is on fire. There's fires ranging all over. The Beaver fire, as we know it. What is it called? I can't remember the name of it. The Beaver fire, though, and the fire out by Eureka are the two biggest, ones, though, so far.
And not Utah Lake, most likely. That's a pretty big body of water.
Yeah, it's probably Utah Lake. So, massive fire, massive flames. It is always cool to go see them. Like, see them from the distance when the sun's going down. You see the whole mountain lit up, but yeah, it's bad. One of the guys in the office that I work, I'm in the field. He's in the office. His cabin was burned down by by the fire out there by Eureka. He had a cabin up there. He had put a ton of work into it and whatnot, and then of course he had got finally drawn on his prized hunt and actually got a amazing elk from what I understand. And the mount for that elk was in there. So it's like a lot of the stuff that he had put a lot of time into and work into up there at that cabin got burned down. So I feel really bad for him. Luckily, obviously, none of him or his family were there to get hurt. But it is pretty sad, though, to see. Like, when you put all that effort into something and it literally just goes up in flames.
Yep.
But
we've had ash
if you hadn't heard,
us.
though, basically the city of Eureka has been evacuated. They're under a mandatory evacuation.
But I think they're starting to let some areas back in now.
Yeah, because the flames have gotten past it. Eureka might be one of them, but I know Eureka, last I had heard, was under mandatory evacuation.
And we had ash raining down for most of this week. You'd go out every single day.
Yeah, we had a lot of
kind of falling a little bit.
We had a lot of ash. I'm actually surprised we didn't have a lot more.
Yeah.
But we did have a good amount of ash just falling down this last week, all over us from this fire. Don't breathe it in; it'll turn your lungs into concrete. That'll suck.
Yeah.
All right. That next tab, is that something you were looking up, or is that still one last thing? Yep. Here we go. Because of our fire issues, and this being one of the driest winters we've ever had, well, we're kind of screwed. Now we can't do fireworks. The governor put out an order banning fireworks across the state. I think it's stupid, and he shouldn't have done it because it's not really effective. Because most of the fireworks are going to be done on the road in front of people's homes where there's really no fire risk in the county or in any of the counties.
18 new wildfires erupted across Utah in 24 hours.
Yeah. And the thing is, the scoundrels who are going to want to do fireworks anyways now, because of this ban, to not get caught, they're going to go out to areas where they're not going to be seen by police. And that's where there's going to be a higher risk for an actual fire starting. So it's like, why are we doing this when it's really not going to make any difference? Just like, it would make a bigger difference if you just restricted the areas where you can do them, where you can do the fireworks. Restrict it into the bigger cities or inside the city boundaries where there are no farms. or grass, or grasslands, or cedars, or anything that can go up in flames. Just outright banning it is really not going to actually prevent any of these problems. But they felt like they needed to do it, and honestly, like, whether or not they can make that ban is questionable in the first place. Whether they even have that authority.
Please be smart with fireworks during the 4th and 24th of July. Cox says the firefighters are stretched thin.
Those of you who are going to make like our founding fathers and buck the authority and celebrate anyways, please do it carefully.
Bring fire extinguishers. Bring water. Just please be safe.
Yeah. Gosh dang, I got a little bug in my throat or something. All right. Well, that's pretty much it for Utah and in the news that's going on. Do you got anything else you were thinking of?
Yeah, I thought of something funny that maybe you wanted to laugh at.
No, probably not, but we'll go with it anyway.
So, it's not Utah related, it's Europe related.
Why?
Apparently, Europe, because of their heat wave...
Hold on, didn't we just fight a war, like, 250 years ago to not give a shit what Europe thinks?
I'm just saying, we do not want our politicians to become this crazy. I found an article. Apparently, for their heat wave over there... in the UK, if you sit in your idling car, sitting there with enjoy a moment of AC, You could be fined up to 110 pounds.
Why?
Because you're adding emissions that you're not allowed. If you're driving somewhere, fine, but you can't sit there idling. You can be fined for it. So I thought that would be funny. Don't let them make us like that.
You know what? I hope they have their own. Instead of a tea party, they should have a gas party and just start dumping gasoline into the harbor in England. Just screw the crown, burn it down. Like, oh my gosh.
You can't even sit
You
in
can't
your
even
car.
idle in your car during a heat wave just to keep yourself cool. To be fair, the car the AC in your car doesn't work as well if you're not actually driving. Just because the idle doesn't quite ramp it up quite enough. You have to really be driving to do it.
That's the only AC they have is their car.
Yeah,
not
I know,
their
right?
house.
These dumbasses decide we're not going to put in air conditioning in our buildings because we're not American and cool. So now we have to sit in our cars in the heat wave to stay cool because we suck. Yeah, because they sucked royal dick is what the problem was.
So would you love to have that going on in our country?
I'd rather deal with the firework ban than freaking that. You know how it's like me. It's not much of an issue. I'm always working out in the sun, being a pipe player, so it's not too much of an issue. I'm used to it. I'm used to the heat. It's not much. But again, I guess to be fair, we live in a much hotter climate than Europe. However much England wants to pretend they're 70-degree or 77-degree heat waves. In degree, I'm talking Fahrenheit, not Celsius for all the retards out there. Yeah, I said it. I don't care. The 77-degree Fahrenheit heat waves are somehow substantial and unbearable, and they're going to die during these heat waves. I don't really care about them. Screw them.
Well, also, their houses are meant to retain the heat because they live in a colder environment.
Yeah, but when they're complaining about 77 degrees, I don't really care what they think. I stopped caring what they thought long before I was born when we had a war to get rid of them.
And I've seen some stuff. They don't have screens on their windows. So let the bugs in the house.
See, that doesn't make sense. To me, that doesn't make sense. Like, if it is that hot and you need the air to flow through, why not have screens on your windows so you don't get the bugs in too?
Some of them don't. Maybe the newer houses do, but I guess some of the older ones don't have screens for their windows. So I'm just like, I feel bad for them. You have to just deal with the flies, the bugs.
I mean, to be fair, England is only now just barely having good dental hygiene, so they've never been very intelligent in the first place. That's why we left them.
That is mean.
Hey, it's true.
That's mean.
Hey, you know what? If she's got more than 3 teeth when she smiles back at you, she's probably the royal family.
Queen Elizabeth had bad teeth.
Yeah. Imagine how worse everyone else's is.
And I'm talking about Queen Elizabeth II. I'm talking about Queen Elizabeth I. She had bad teeth. She loves sweets.
Yeah, well, I mean, she had 3 or more teeth, so probably part of the royal family.
Boo-hoo-hoo. Poor you.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sorry. I think it's hilarious.
Did you want to look up temples? See if there's any new temple announcements. Or, not temple announcements, I mean updates.
I'm sure there's a few, but not a lot. We can probably do that next week. There'll probably be a little bit more updates to talk about.
So don't forget, in a couple months, it will be time to register or get tickets for the Salt Lake Temple.
Actually, go ahead and look it up. I'm not sure. I thought the Ephraim Temple open house was supposed to be starting soon.
It's in September.
Oh, okay, September. Never mind. Oh, my gosh, whatever this is bugging my throat. Maybe I just need to start chugging my hot sauce.
Yeah, you love that hot sauce.
I love this hot sauce. All right. Ephraim. Okay, yeah, so September.
Yep.
I guess I thought it was a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's not. But no, I don't really see any major temple updates, so maybe next week we'll go through it more.
This one might be new. The Mexico temple. I can't remember.
Scroll up. No, that looks familiar.
That's
I
October.
think we've talked about that one already.
Modesto, California.
And that's obviously the big one.
Yep.
Yeah, so you said tickets are going to be going out soon?
You should be able to start
because it's supposed to be opening up.
September.
They're going to be launching a new app, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're going to be launching a new app, and that will be where they manage tickets for doing this, for doing the open house tours of the Salt Lake Temple.
And they're looking for volunteers to help be guides for the temple.
Yeah, I bet you my dad will try and do that.
Yeah, if you want to see a historic building, make sure you get tickets and come to the temple.
Because for a long time in his life, the Salt Lake Temple was his temple district, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Because back like when my dad was a kid, freaking there was what? Your mom and my dad, there was like freaking 12. 12 operating temples in the whole world.
And here's a good quote for you for why we have the temples. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure, read it.
It says, thus Israel gathers for the purpose of building temples in which the ordinances of salvation and exaltation are performed for the living and the dead. Bruce R. McConkie.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, oh, gosh, dang.
Oh,
all right.
Don't forget to order your Utah license plate.
Oh, yeah, so
$250.
the new Utah license plates, I've seen it in person now. It looks even better than in photos.
Except we couldn't see all the details because they had a big, huge thing around the license plate. But it looked nice.
Oh, my gosh. This is freaking killing me. So let's go ahead and get out of here. I love you all. You're losers just like me. You guys have a good night.